Hi, I'm Lori and I love books. And today I'm going to go over it's not recent reads, it's all the books I've read since January through June 30th. I had hoped to have this video out in June. I'm still behind like 3 videos after this one, so I'm hoping this month I'll be able to catch up. My summer went by really fast and I had so many appointments and things I had to do, and then I've been back to work and I had a big training which I finally finished this last week, and so I'm glad about that. And then I have like 2 to 3 more trainings and then 2 projects I'm doing, so just really busy, and still a lot of appointments as well outside of work. And so I'm hoping really to be caught up between now and October, fingers crossed. The first book I am going to review is Wide Awake and Dreaming, the poetry of Chris Spheris. I found this at a used bookstore. I liked the title. I gave it 4 stars. One of my favorite poems was Truth is a Dancer. So it kind of poems about himself, poems about I think it was Greece, and poems about like being in love with a woman. And so it was a very interesting read. I'm not sure I'll ever read it again, but I might. This is a maybe reread. So 4 stars for that. The next one is another poetry book, and it's called To Look Out From, Poems by D.D. Cummings. And I got it because the cover just looks so soft, and I was expecting a lot of nature poems, a lot of by the seaside poems, and most of the poems were about weather as opposed to like being out in nature. And I get the weather is part of nature, but I was like thinking of, you know, listening to the waves crash against the shore, you know, the breeze rustling the grass in a meadow, kind of based on the cover. I was expecting really soft, ethereal, kind of abstract poems, and they were more direct and to the point than I kind of was hoping for. So some of the poems of weather was like The First Snow, and My Watershed, which was about a savage storm. So like weather's interesting, but I wasn't, like with this cover, I wasn't expecting a book about poems of weather. I was expecting, because like wouldn't you expect like a storm or snow or something more action-packed on the cover if that's what's inside the book. So I gave this 3 stars. It was good. It just, like, the cover gave me a completely different idea of what was in store with this book. And when it was about mostly weather poems, I was a little disappointed, but I also, like, the poems were good. There wasn't anything wrong with the poems. So a 3 out of 5 stars isn't bad. It's just average. So that was that one. This next one I got free. So for a free book, like, I love free books. Free books are awesome. And it's like one of those coffee table books, and it's The Art of Minnie Mouse. I gave this 3 stars. It does have introduction going over her animated filmography. So it like shows all the little cartoons and movies she was in. And then there's a little biography of her creation and her relationship with Mickey Mouse and Walt Disney and Pluto, or no, not Pluto, Pete, sorry, another name. There's a little bit of history of Disney as well, but not a lot. Here's some of the cover or movie posters. Oh, the cat's scratching. And then there's just like artists' interpretations of her. So that's her with like some cats. A lot of them were computer generated art as opposed to like with watercolors or pencils. So I enjoyed the book, especially for it being free. I gave it 3 stars because I think I would have liked more details of Minnie Mouse, more like maybe more about her costumes at Disneyland, more about her new ride with Mickey Mouse, the Runaway Railway. Although I think this book was out before that. So really good book, really fun to read. It is very big, which is like the only reason I might not keep it is because it takes up quite a bit of space. It's supposed to be like one of those showcase books, which it is a pretty awesome showcase book, but Minnie Mouse isn't really something I collect. I collect Alice in Wonderland, so this is a maybe to keep. I haven't decided yet. I don't think I would reread it. I think I would just like flip through the pages and look at the pictures. So that's the 3rd book. This next one is a Little Golden Book, and it's of Alice in Wonderland, and the cat's scratching again. And it's Alice in Wonderland finds the Garden of Live Flowers, and it's like, well, yes, of course they're live. Talking flowers would have been a little bit more accurate. I gave this 5 stars because Alice in Wonderland is my love. Very soft pictures. And it just kind of follows her story through the garden and meeting the caterpillar, who turns into a butterfly, and her getting back to her normal size. And this is an out-of-print one of the Little Golden Books, and I think it was from, let's see, 1951. So this was put out when the animated classic came out. So you might have, like, if you want to find a copy of this, you might have trouble finding it. I was very glad I found this in a used bookstore. So there's that. And then this one I had shown on a recent haul video, maybe my Alice in Wonderland book video, and sorry, the other books are falling down. And it's called Flora, a botanical pop-up book, and it's by Eugene Kim. And when I was like looking through the book to show it as that, I was like falling more and more in love with it because it's got these beautiful botanic pop-outs. The story is a little bit basic, kind of to the point, of flowers and pollinating. So it is a little educational, but it is very much a gorgeous book to just look at. And they do have others in this series of books, like on trees and I think mushrooms. So I might get more of these. And I gave this 5 stars, if just because of the playfulness, the beauty, the fact that it does have some information in it, and it's a charming little book. The next one is Fairyopolis, a Flower Fairies journal, and so it kind of goes through this lady's journal as she's visiting a friend's cottage in England, and her encountering different fairy items and hearing and experiencing different fairies in that part of England. I gave this 4 stars. If you have a young child or somebody who loves fairies, this is a very cute book. If they like mail or correspondence, there's also like little envelopes and stuff. And if it's a very interactive book. So here's one of the little envelopes down here that has like a little tiny itty bitty card in it. So it's or a little tiny note. So a very fun interactive book. I was expecting it to be more like a zoological kind of book, but it is more of a journal of somebody who's just visiting a cottage that may or may not have fairies in it. The next book is a picture book, and it's The Little Mouse, the Red Ripe Strawberry, and the Big Hungry Bear by Dawn and Audrey Wood, and it's illustrated by Dawn Wood. And if you haven't ever read this book and you have children, I highly recommend it. It's a really fun book. Most children have had strawberries in their little lives, so they know that. Most children have heard of mice, and mice can be very playful in books. And it's about the narrator saying that the little mouse who found the strawberry is going to be visited by the big hungry bear. So the little mouse has to figure out what to do about that. So I gave it 4 stars. And then this next one, I also found it in a used bookstore, and it's a poetry book called The Insect Wonderland, which I got it because of the Wonderland in the title. Verse and illustrations by Sybil Kent Kane. And so this was written by somebody, and then I think her niece helped her publish it, or helped her it be published after the aunt passed away. But it goes over different insects from A to Z, and a little poem about them. So this is L is for ladybird. We usually, or at least people I know, call them ladybugs. They apparently have a lot of different names. Nimble fly. So some of them are little, some of them are lesser known names. So underwings, bright moths, and butterflies with the monarchs. And so it tells you like educational things about the insects in verse, which is very interesting. The one I found the most interesting is the water bugs, and because I never really think of water bugs as I've seen them, but I don't really know a lot about them. I just have seen them. So this was a nice way to learn a little bit about an insect that I don't really know about. So like really cute illustrations, very informational, and also done in verse, so it wasn't so heavy of a read. The next one is Poetry for Young People, Maya Angelou, edited by Edwin Graves Wilson, PhD, illustrated by Jerome Lagarde. I'm so sorry. That's probably wrong. I gave this 5 stars as well. I had read Maya Angelou as a child. I haven't read her in a long time, and these were some of her best known poems, as well as some that I hadn't ever read before. I really liked the illustrations as well. I thought they were paired very well with the poetry. So I think overall this is just a very beautiful, very charming book, and like I said, I gave it 5 stars. This next book was actually the last book I read in 2022. I read it in December. I gave it 3 stars. It's The Fire Pony. I had started reading it and I had finished it. I gave it 3 stars because even though it wasn't a bad book, it just wasn't the book for me. I was very much on contemporary realism, about horse ranching, and I just really didn't like the ending as well. But I think if you are a young person who does like horses, does like ranching, does like horse racing, and what are they called? The rodeo, you might really enjoy this. So I just don't think it was the book for me. The next one I found at a Goodwill, and it's called The Garden of Eve by K.L. Going. This is about a little girl and her father, who is widowed. Her mom passed away, going to a supposedly cursed apple orchard in New York, and her trying to help the previous owner's family uncover what happened to a missing family member. So it's a very interesting story. It does have stuff about nature, about helping plants grow. It has stuff about how choices we make might seem like the best choice, but isn't always the right choice. And reacting to things and situations aren't always good, and how if you trust what somebody says, they might not actually be telling the truth. So there was a lot in this little book, and I really enjoyed it, and I gave it 5 stars, which I wasn't expecting it to be a 5 stars. I wasn't expecting it to be that good. It was just a really interesting, very different, unique book, and it does have connection with the Garden of Eden from biblical times, but it's in a way that it doesn't feel like it's a religious or Christian fiction. The next book is The Edge of Strange Hollow by Gabrielle K. Byrne. I gave this 3 stars. I was hoping I would like it better, but the introduction was actually a little, it kind of needed more editing, I think. Like, it starts with one conflict, and then, like, maybe a third of the way in, it comes up with this different conflict. And it's like in a story, especially a decent-sized book, you only need one conflict to create all the action that comes after. And so when there's like 2 conflicts, like it just is like you started the book and then you restarted the book, and it's like you should have edited so there was only one conflict. And then the ending was good, so like it was just mostly the beginning I had trouble with, and then at one point the main character, what was her name? Let's see, Poppy. She is pretty cruel at one point, and I don't think there's, like, you want the main character to be the one that the audience identifies with. She wasn't the villain, so her being cruel just made her very unlikable of the character, and I never really kind of got over that, and it wasn't like that part became part of her arc of growing. So I think this was just a pretty messy book, but I gave it 3 stars because there was a lot of parts I liked, but overall the whole story just wasn't working very well. And then the last book is one of my classics, and I love it. The Wind in the Willows by Kenneth Grahame and Graham Baker Smith. So I have read this book many times before, but this was a new addition to me. It is from Templar Books, and it has like a cloth cover, and it has beautiful illustrations in it. I had another copy that was from Barnes & Noble that was also very pretty, but I like this one more, so the Barnes & Noble one I let go of. So this is about Mole and Rat who live on the river, and their adventures there through the year, as well as Mr. Toad and Mr. Badger. And so if you've never read this book, I highly recommend it. And those are the books I read from basically December, January to June 30th, not including the books for the Children's Classics Club, which I hope to put a video out just for that in the future. So until next time, I hope you have a lovely time reading, and let me know in the comments below what you're reading now, or what you've read this year that is great, or the one that you're like, you should avoid